How you doing, everybody? Welcome back to Staying Focused for Jesus. Hope each and every one of you are having a blessed day in the Lord Jesus Christ as always. The title of the video has probably gotten your attention, but before we get into that, I want to make sure I say this. For those who are not subscribed to RLD TV. RLD TV is a business. It is a non-profit. It is a business. It is a non-profit. If you go over there, I go into detail, breaking it down, why I have a non-profit, why it is structured the way it is. I'm not going to go into too many details on that, but I do want to say this. Stand Focused for Jesus Ministries is not my non-profit. Stand Focused for Jesus Ministries is not my non-profit. It is not under a non-profit in the sense of, government oversight and all these other things. It's not 501c3. So, RLD TV, which is the name of the other YouTube channel, which happens to be me doing it. Royal Lineage Development, Inc. You can go look us up in the state of Arkansas. We are a non-profit. Like I said, you can go look at the other video on that channel. Link is in the description box, and I go into details speaking about that a little bit, a little bit more, letting you know why I have it structured the way I have it structured, why I started a non-profit, the benefits of it, and everything like that. So I just want to make sure I clarify that because I don't want there to be any confusion. Also, RLD Inc., we're not a religious organization. Our mission statement, our goal is to provide affordable houses, and that falls under the category of 501c3, or however you want to put it, 501 whatever. It's currently right now we do not have our tax exempt status, but we are a non-profit legally on paper. So any funds that are coming in are now going to the non-profit. Like I said, if you want more details on that, why I'm doing it this way now, then just go watch the video. Even though it's technically still me, you have to have knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. You may say, well, RLD Inc. is you, so technically it still is me. But we know in the business world, when you create a corporation, they consider it a person, like literally a living being, has a life of his own. So, like I said, I'm not going to get into too many details on that. If you got any more questions about it, go watch the video, or you can contact me and we can talk about it on that level. Maybe one day, another video, I'll go into detail on this video, but the video is out there. Just, go watch it. So, we're talking about, is it possible to be able to change the timeline when a person time travels? We know that time travel is not only possible, but time travel is doable. People get so enamored with time travel, not realizing and understanding that all of us are technically time travelers. If we came forth from the Father, and everything was already written, he already knew how it was going to play out because he could see that far into the future. Then when we came forth from him, and he gave us his knowledge, gave us his wisdom, and gave us his understanding, more so when we came into this physical world, that knowledge of what was going to happen was encoded in our DNA. And then when we came into this physical realm, the code was locked until it wasn't. The code was locked until the code was unlocked. Now that code becomes unlocked in different ways. For a lot of us, the code starts to become unlocked through unrighteousness. And then we start to get into things that we really shouldn't be getting into at an early age. And we end up getting ourselves in trouble. So all of us are technically time travelers. You know, I give this example all the time. Right now, this is a form of time travel. There are different forms of something, just like you have Adam and Eve, and then you have, from Adam and Eve, you have different beings, different races, what we call races, tribes of mankind. You got some people that are darker than me, you got some people that are lighter than me. You got black people that are darker than me, you got black people that are lighter than me, you got black people that are comparable to my complexion. So I'm talking about forms in that aspect. That's what I'm talking about. So time travel in itself gives birth to these different forms, to stay in the context of these different races, these different tribes of time travel. One of them being what we're doing right now. I'm recording this video, and it is Friday, November 5th, 2021. 1:34 p.m. Friday, November 5th, 2021, 1:34 p.m. You're not going to see this video probably at the minimum until November 6th. November 6th. And whatever time it drops, 8 a.m. my time. So I'm going to what? I'm going to send the video in the future. Now I want to make this simple as I can. This isn't all in all to be all, however you want to put it, video speaking about this stuff. This is just generic stuff, but complicated stuff that we're making simple, or I should say putting it forth in a simple way so that we can all understand it. Now, how deep you want to go with it in understanding, then that's on you. So again, right now we know it's Friday. For me, it's Friday, November 5th, 2021. And then we just time traveled again because the time is now 1:35. But I haven't released the video to y'all yet. So I'm going to send the video into the future. But whose future am I sending it to? Not mine. For me, it's coming up with the thoughts before I even say them. I have to know what I'm going to say before I say it. So my future self and my thoughts and being able to see what I'm going to say before is going into the future and bringing what I'm going to say back immediately. That's a form of it right there. You think what you're going to say before you say it. So if you're thinking what you're going to say, you're gathering the thoughts together in the future, and then you're bringing it back to your current. So to the future is the past. To you is the present. But your present is forever changing because what I just said 2 seconds ago, that's the past. And what I'm saying right now is the present. And what I'm thinking, what I'm going to say is the future. But what I just said, literally in the same sentence, in the same timeline, is the past. But for you, all of it is the future because when you watch this video. Oh my God. The Lord is good, isn't he? So when I make this video, I'm sending it into the future. Not my future, your future, because you're going to be watching it in your future, on your timeline. Are we understanding? Can you change the timeline? Yes and no. I'm gonna, you know how they do with movies. They make the first movie that tells the ending, the first movie, and then the last movie end up being the beginning. I think Star Wars is like that. I'm about to do that. Because you just heard me say, can you change the timeline? Yes or no? But now I want to tell you how you can change the timeline before I tell you how it is or isn't done specifically. I dropped this video. I go back and I listen to it. So I'm listening to myself. So I'm time traveling right there. I'm going back. It's interesting to say back to the future, but you got to go back to the future. You got to go to the past to get back to the future. The whole purpose of going back to the future is going back to the past. It's really wise how they worded that. It's clever. It's clever. Because when people back to the future, they're going to the future. No, somebody comes from the past and say, hey, some things are going on. We got to try to get things on course or it's all over. So they've seen something that they want to change. And if you notice, most of these time travel movies, time travel TV shows, not all of them, but most of them, what are they tailored toward? What are they specifically talking about? I'll give you a second. For those who don't know, just tell me what you think in the spirit. Think about something dealing with the Bible. Most of your time travel movies and TV shows, they are tailored toward stopping the apocalypse. Interesting. Why are they tailored toward stopping the apocalypse? Well, we know what the apocalypse is. The apocalypse is the revelation of Jesus Christ because he's coming to end everything. One of your famous TV shows, comics, movies, most people know about the movies. I mentioned this in my Facebook post. X-Men. What is X-Men all about? It's about the X-Men. No. It tells a story about the X-Men individually, but each individual story comes together collectively to tell how they come together to do what? To defeat Thanos. What is Thanos doing? Thanos is bringing in the apocalypse. They want to stop Thanos. Thanos like, I want to restore everything back to the way it was. And what do? They travel back in time to change it, which the whole thing was everything they were doing before that, changed it to defeat Thanos from destroying everything. And then Captain America goes back and he lives his life with the love of his life so he gets to save the world and get the girl. I hated that ending because that's not the way it works. Now, it works that way, but it doesn't work that way. I'm going to explain that. It works that way, but it doesn't work that way. So going back to what I was saying, when I drop a video, I'm sending it into the future, right? So we got that. Then, if I decide when I watch that video, there's some things that I didn't explain as good as I could have. Or maybe there was a mistake that I made in the video, which once I drop a video, it's out there. I don't go back and I don't edit my videos once I drop them. I'll put them out there and then I may come back. A lot of times I come back and I will expound on something that I said. Because, I'm speaking, I'm in the moment right now. So they say hindsight is 20/20. You watch the video and you can sit here and you can critique all day. Because you're not in the actual moment of being like, oh, he should have said this or he should have said that. I'm in the moment. I'm speaking what I'm supposed to be speaking in this moment. But I do it too. I go back and I listen to my video. I say, oh, I should have said this or I should have said that. So sometimes I used to do it. I used to put like little notes on the screen or whatever, which is also a form of time travel because that's me already have recorded that video, but now I'm putting more information from the future on that video. So when you watch it in your future, then you'll get it even more. And then sometimes I'll be like, okay, I'll expound on that in a later video. So you have that. Now to keep it simple, we're going to deal with two things. I'm going to lay this foundation for this next point. They say there's two things you can't avoid in life. What are those two things? They say is taxes and death. Taxes and death. So those are 2 points on the timeline. Now, can those points be changed? To a certain extent. Let's address the taxes. If you know how the system operates, you understand the laws, the rules, and the regulations, can you avoid the taxes? Absolutely. Just ask Jeff Bezos. Just ask Jeff Bezos. So, when they tell you, the common people, there's two things that you cannot avoid, taxes and death, we know that's a lie because taxes can be avoided. So that's like two different timelines. Because if you can change your state, I should say, if you can change how many taxes you pay, then you can change your timeline. Because the less taxes you have to pay, the more money, the more resources you get to keep in your pocket or the business pocket. And you then take that money, and because it's compounding so fast, you're able to invest in this, invest in these different things, and all these different things are going to bring you back income on your investments, right? That's where they get the whole thing, multiple streams of income, because it's based off of the Bible. They don't tell you that. It's based off the principles of water, the principles and laws of water, and the principles and laws of water are the principles and laws of the Spirit. They know how it operates. Let me make that connection for you. The rivers, they come in from different places, right? But they all end up flowing into the sea, the ocean. They all end up flowing, and it's all connected. So the lesser pays to the greater, because the lesser came from the greater. The rivers come from the greater. So the lesser pays the greater, and then the greater feeds the lesser, and the lesser feeds the greater. And it goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It continues on and whatnot. So, that concept of multiple streams, Admiral Law, multiple streams, water of income, those streams, they flow to who? The main body of water. The main body of water, because we're mostly made of water. See, I ain't gonna tell y'all this. I wonder why. I gotta put that in here somewhere. But this is where they get it from. So if you can pay less taxes, then you have more money to invest. If you have more money to invest, then you will accumulate resources faster. This is what they did, and this is what they do with slavery. They were able to make all this money because they didn't have to pay taxes like that, and the labor costs, because labor is a form of a tax. Is a form of a tax. That's how they see it, because when you're a laborer, they write you off as a tax. You are an expense. It is what it is. You ever had to pay so and so this amount of money, so I took from my profits. It is what it is. Don't get offended by it. If you don't like it, then go start your own business. Simple as that. So they see you as a tax, so they want to minimize these taxes. And we know why. So that would change the timeline, because if you're a person like Jeff Bezos and you're bringing in bank, this man is literally his own bank. Let's say Jeff Bezos has a tax bill of, his tax bill would probably be like, if he bring in 100 billion, we're gonna say 30 billion in taxes he probably owes. Because all you gotta do is do the percentages. And because he's making so much money, he's in the tip top of the higher tax bracket. But it's not really being in the top higher tax bracket, because those who are in the higher tax bracket, they don't pay as many taxes because they know how not to. So it's all wordplay. Now, like I said, that's just a rough estimate. Let's say he had to pay 30 billion of 100 billion, which would be 30%, which is probably about right, somewhere around there. You know, you can do the math. Who wants to pay? I don't care. Y'all gotta realize the numbers are just bigger. They're just bigger numbers. When you get your check, you see all those hours you work, you're looking at your check like, dang, I work all this overtime. They took all this tax money, so you ain't really get what you wanted to get. So you put in all this work and you ain't getting all your money. So yeah, that check is nice, but you like, man, they kept me in taxes. I got $400 in overtime, but shoot, they took 150, 175. You see what I'm saying? So you're thinking like, man, if I had to pay the taxes, I'd be straight. Because it would change your situation, because you may have a goal, you may have a plan where it's like, you may have a goal, you may have a plan where you're saving up to do something. You're saving up to leave that job. You're saving up this house or this car, whatever it may be. And you're like, man, I didn't pay all these taxes. They took out more taxes than what I thought, or whatever. That's making your time frame of accomplishing this goal even longer. And then something comes up. Somebody gets sick. Somebody want to borrow some money. Car breaks down. So what does it do? This goal, it seems like it's getting pushed further and further away in your timeline, because all these different obstacles end up slowing you down. So you're not really changing the timeline. Just you have these as they say, these different blips in the timeline, and a blip will slow you down on that timeline. So Jeff Bezos owes 30 billion in taxes. He looks at it and say, ain't no way, boy. Boy, ain't no way. Ain't no way, boy. And he's trying to figure out, how can I reduce this 30 billion in taxes? Because he's thinking about it from a business perspective. Because if he's thinking, if I can save 30 billion in taxes, then that's $30 billion more that I have in my pocket that I can use for other investments. Like going to the moon, or investing in this corporation, or this or that, or whatever. Or you're thinking, man, he got the 70 billion, but all that is not going back into himself or whatnot, or the corporation. It's going to other things. It's going to pay for this gigantic empire that he has built. He want to get that 30 billion because he don't want to pay no 30 billion in taxes. Who wants to see 30? Come on. Let's not be stupid. You wouldn't want to give the dang government no 30 billion. So if you could look into the laws and see that there are certain things you can do legally where you ain't got to pay that 30 billion, because you have this higher level of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Once you reach that level, then of course you're going to take advantage of it. You've done nothing wrong. You've broken no laws unless you're doing something that you ain't really got no business. So that's what Jeff Bezos did. He took the laws that he didn't write, the laws that they wrote, and use it to his advantage, so he don't have to pay any taxes, because now that's more money in the corporation's pocket to be able to invest in these different business ventures that he wants to invest in. Which, in essence, that's a change in his timeline, because having $30 billion more is a big piece of change in comparison to not having that 30 billion, and you're losing 30 billion, give or take, every year. If you make it, 100 billion a year. These are just rough estimates. You can do the math, or well, he didn't make. I ain't studying all that. We keeping it simple. Keeping it simple. Shut your mouth. All that foolishness. 30 billion, 30 billion, 30 billion, 30 billion. Like, dang. 30, 60, 90, 120, 150. 5 years. If he paying 30 billion taxes, that's $150 billion. $150 billion is a lot of investment money. It's a lot of investment money, right? So if he could gain that 150 back, that changes his timeline in a sense. Because now he has more resources to do these different things. The more resources he has, then the more money he can put into trying to tackle the other timeline point, which is death. And Jeff Bezos is heavily invested in trying to live longer. Because they got the money, but they know they're going to die, and they can't do everything that they want to do because there's not enough time. So, you can change the timeline. They say you can avoid taxes and death, but you can't avoid taxes. So if you can change the taxes on the timeline, then you have in essence change the timeline, change your timeline. Imagine if you could work and all the money that you were making, you had to pay no taxes on it. Wouldn't that change a lot of stuff for you? Of course it would. So instead of getting that $500 check, you getting a $750, $800 check, depending on how much taxes, how much you're working and stuff. And then you multiply that, you keep on multiplying it, and you see how much money you're giving away, or they're getting. So now that we have that established, we want to get to the real timeline. On the real timeline, the main timeline, you have life and death, A and B. Death isn't what majority of people understand it to be. Death isn't, people don't understand death. You have death, but you also have the second death. Now, in the second death, it's a resurrection of the first death. So, whatever state you die in is the state that you are resurrected in the, we're going to say, afterlife. So if you die in the state of death unto death, then you are resurrected to death, the second death. If you die in life, even though you still die, you die in a state of life. So then you're resurrected to life, in life everlasting. Because you are resurrected to a state of life, then you get to live in the new world, the new heavens, and all these different things. If you die in the state of death, then you cannot be amongst the living, because life begets life. But life can also beget death if a person walks out of life. then there's only death. But death cannot beget life in that sense. You can't not have Satan and then another unclean spirit come together, and then they say, well, let's make it really biblical. You cannot have Satan and the harlot in the book of Revelation come together to, in essence, birth what we would call the Antichrist, and then claim him to be Christ. It's still death. Even though the Antichrist is going to be walking, living amongst us and everything, he's a living being. He still is death. So death cannot beget life in that aspect. But life begats life. So even though Christ gave his life, and through his death we have life, he is still life. Are you understanding? Now, since you have the 2 points on the timeline, you have life and death. You're born into this world and you're going to end up dying. People obviously want to change this one. They want to change the death. But can it be changed? Yes and no. Yes, it can be changed based on the decisions you make. But no, it cannot be changed because it's already technically written. It's already written what is going to happen. It's just you don't necessarily know everything. So because you're on this timeline, in this world right here, you still have to make those choices. You may say, well, what happens if well, I'm not going to choose nothing. You know, what happens is what happens. The timeline is going to you're going to be forced to make a choice. It's life because of what's already written. So people say, well, if it's already written, then what's the point? What's the point of watching the movie when the movie is already written? You already know the movie's going to end. You already know they wrote the script, but you still watch it. You see what I'm saying? What's the point of making choices in this life or living life or watching the movie of life if it's already written? What's the point of choosing to watch a movie that's already written? What's the point of watching a scary movie? I don't watch the scary movies, but, you know, just using that as an example, when you already know how it's going to end. What's the point of watching a Michael Myers movie when you already know pretty much what's going on? Now, there may be a plot twist or whatever, but come on, man. You already know what the Michael Myers movies are about, but people still watch them, don't they? They still watch the X-Men, they still watch this, they still watch that, even though it's already written. Think about that. So even though it's already written, because you're on this timeline, you still have to choose. If you don't choose, it was already written that you were going to do that. So you can avoid the timeline all you want to. You're still going to come up to this point right here, which is the point of death. No matter what you do over here. You can avoid it, push it off, but eventually you got to deal with this right here. So you can change it, but you can't change it. God knows because it's already written. Now, different ways you can change it is this. I'm in my vehicle right now. I crank my vehicle up because I say, you know, I'm hungry. I want to go get something to eat. What do I have a taste for? I have a taste for tacos. So I go down the street and I say, I'm going to stop at the local taco stand right down the street. Then I get there and there's a line, or I'm like, you know, I'm sitting in my vehicle. I'm like, you know, I don't know if I want any taco. I think I want maybe a black bean burger or something like that, and some sweet potato fries. So then I go to a local place right down the street also that's called King Kong. Then I get there. Now I have a choice to do what? To go eat there, or I can change my mind again and go back to the taco stand or go somewhere else. So what have I done? I've changed the timeline. Because if I'm eating at the taco stand, I'm not going to be around the same people that I'm around if I'm over here, or over there, or over there, or over there. If there is an event and the Spirit is leading me to not go, but I go, and then something ends up happening to me, then I just shorten my timeline. Because of the choice that I made. So in essence, I've changed my timeline. But I haven't changed my timeline because I still died. But because I was disobedient, I died here instead of dying over here. So my choices affected the timeline. Think about the choices you've made in your life and how they have affected your timeline. And the very thing that you're probably trying to do right now, you're looking back on your life and you're saying, if I would have made a different choice back here, then I would have already been over here trying to accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish. Now you right here, and you got all these beliefs in the timeline, all these stumbling blocks and whatnot that you got to overcome to get to where you would have been in the first place if you would have made the better decisions. You would have already been here and not here and going through all this if you would have made better choices back here on your timeline. You see what I'm saying? So when you made these choices back here, it affected you when? In the future. So your past affected your future. And now it's more difficult up here to get this point when it would have been a little bit more smoother, a little bit more easier if you would have made better choices when you was right here. We can all attest to that. So those are ways that the timeline can be changed. Now the deeper question is, can a person go back on their specific timeline and change things in the past to alter their future? That's also a yes or no question. For certain individuals, no, you can't. For most people, when they time travel, because you're time traveling right now, only thing you can do is you can go back and you can observe. You can observe, you can take notes, all these different things. You can't go back and change it. When you read the Bible, you're time traveling. You're traveling to the past and you're going into the future. John the Revelator, he time traveled into the future. People get confused because when they think about time travel, they think about being able to go this place and literally see it and touch it and all these different things. It doesn't work that way all the time. Right now, it doesn't work that way for most people. You see it, you touch it, you visualize it in your mind. When I'm speaking these things, I don't have like a 3D image showing all this stuff. I'm speaking it. And then in your timeline, you're putting it all together for you to understand it. You have the vision in your mind. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. That's why I always, when you speak of this stuff, you notice I always give you something physical to attach to. The physical aspect is kind of like almost the conduit for the spiritual power to come through so you can understand it. So you have, it's like the ground. Now you got the positive and you got the negative. But people say, the positive vibes only. A battery doesn't work like that. Nothing works like that. You have to have the positive and negative. Because once the positive energy comes in there, if it's not grounded, it's going to overload the circuit. So you have the negative that grounds it. So when I say certain things, I give you something like, the taxes and death. That's the grounding right there. The positive, all these different things I'm telling you and speaking to you about, that's coming in to this battery. You're the battery, and you're grounded by that point that I'm making. Because you don't have that ground point, then your circuit is going to be overloaded. The battery, the capacity, is going to be overloaded. You see what I'm saying? So certain individuals, they can change their timelines, but most people cannot change their timeline. They can only go in, they can only go back, and they can only observe. For most of us, we can only go back and we can observe. Now you may say, well, can we interact? Sometimes you can. You may say, well, how is that possible? Well, the individuals in the past, when you go back in the past, they already know what's going to happen because you're on that timeline. If you're going back to the past, you're going back to, let's say, 1960s. You already know what's going to happen. They already know what's going to happen when you're interacting with the past in that way. Because there's different interactions when you're time traveling in that aspect. You can time travel and you go back and you can observe, be an observer, and you know they can't see, you can't see them. You can time travel and go back and you can interact with the people. And they know you're from the future. But nothing you do changes the outcome because what's written is what's written. So you can go back and you try to make these different choices for those who can do that. Like the different forms of different things you can and can't do. I'm trying to give you different levels to it. There's different levels to it in regards to what somebody can or can't do. So for those who do go back and they're able to interact with the people of that time period, they already know, hey, it can't be changed. It's like it's known between the two of y'all. Even though these people still trying to go back and they're trying to change it, it really can't be changed. Because what's written is written. So even though they're interacting with them and they're from the future, it still ends up being the same outcome. It may go differently how they get there, but the outcome still ends up being the same. Some people walking around paying attention to my surroundings. Okay, so now that we have that, then you have individuals. They can not only go back and observe and interact, but they can change their timeline by going back into the past. If I told you yes and no. So I'm breaking it down. You got different levels. It just depends. For most people, they can only go back and they can observe. They can only go back and they can observe. It's 2021. If you want to go back and you want to watch a movie in the 1980s, you can go back and you watch a movie from the 1980s. If you want to go back and you watch a documentary from the 1980s, 1990s, whatever, you can go back and watch. You can observe. Everything is being recorded today, so guess what? You can go back and you can observe these different events in a 3-dimensional form. Now we're finna get even deeper with it before we go to the point I just made. This is where the MetaVerse comes in at. Now, with the MetaVerse and these different things, because it's spiritual, and we know that seeing visions and these different things is spiritual. We know the spiritual is more powerful than the physical. So if we're going back and watching the documentary in 3D, and we have a connection with it, you ever watch something you're like, oh my God, like let's say you go back and you watch like something they with racism for black people. You like you literally you feel yourself getting upset. You go back and watch Roots, or you go back and you watch one of these real live, slave movies. And some of you watching, you be crying and stuff like that and everything because you like really connected with it. You're there, right? You just proved my point. How is it can you watch a movie like that and you feel so connected that you are moved to tears? Like you're there. Because you are. And it could be something else for white people or whoever else. But you're interacting with it on a 3D level, a three-dimensional level. But yet you're interacting with that movie that was made in the past. Within, you're being affected by it inwardly. The manifestation of that is what? The physical tear. So, with the metaverse, we know that you'll be able to interact with these different environments on the minimum level of a 4D level. But it also goes deeper than that. 4D, 5D, 6D, and we can go on. You're able to get in these worlds and you're able to interact. You're able to move this, touch that, do this, do that, boom, 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 right? That's in the present or in the future. How you look at it. So what happens when you want to watch a movie, your same movie, let's say a slave movie, and you go back and you're in the movie. You're there, you're like, whoa. You're following the characters around. You're following the time, kind of like a dream. You know how in a dream, you're in one point, and the next thing you're in somewhere else? It does the same thing with the movie. You're engulfed, you're literally in the movie in a minimum of a 4D environment. So when the master take the whip and he whipping the slave and everything, you're seeing all this because you're standing right there. So you're observing the past. You can smell everything. You can see this and that. You can all this stuff. You time travel. You're observing. You can see the different events and everything because the more data information you have, then the more the pieces are filled in. So when you go in the movie, you ever watch a movie and then you go back and say, I need to get some more details about this situation or whatever. And then you go back and you read the details about this character or whatever, this scene or whatnot. Then I get it now. I get why that happened. So the data points fill in the pieces in the middle of the scene. So you can go into the movie in the minimum of a 4D interaction. And because you're plugged into the matrix, you have this data, then you can understand this scene even more. So you have this deeper enlightenment, the deeper connection with this scene about why it is the way it is. You got the backstory about the mom and the dad, about the whole family. And you understand this one scene and why it's so powerful to you. And it's like that for the whole movie. They're going to make a lot of money. Because now you can do that with more movies. If we're here long enough, mark my words. They're going to take these older movies and they're going to make so much money off of it, it's going to be ridiculous. Because you will now be able to interact with the movies. Remember they had the regular movies, then what they have? IMAX, the 3D glasses, all that was preparing the people for what's to come. So y'all didn't see it, did you? So now when you go into the movies, people are going to be immersed, literally they're going to be in the movie. I think they kind of like was giving you a hint at that with the whole Avatar movie. So you will have like what they call an avatar in these Universal Studios movies or whatnot, where you can create your avatar and enter into the Universal Studios world. Oh, some of you don't believe me. Watch. Keep these words in your note file. I'm telling you, if we're here long enough, that's what you're gonna see. It's gonna blow your mind. That's why I tell y'all about money. If I want to make a lot of money real fast, I could. Because I already know what stuff is going. But I have to do things the way that the Lord has called me to do it. You see, that go back to those choices. Because if I don't, then I get the money. But guess what? I'm going to be cut off fast. Now I didn't got all this money, and then now I can't even use it. So it's going to somebody else, and I'm not, glorifying God because I'm dead and gone. So I have to do it the Lord's way. So when I get these resources, then I have longevity to live longer, to be a good steward of it, doing the right thing so my days are longer. Not because of the money, but because of my obedience. So if I want to do, get into this stuff, I could get into it. Maybe eventually I will, but it's going to be the right way. Coming from, what I'm doing and stuff like that. So again, you'll be able to be immersed in these movies and everything, where you're literally there and you're walking with the characters. And then they will have movies or whatnot where you're like a character in the movie, where they're interacting with you, but the outcome is still the same. And then, in regards to the movies, they may have it where if you pay a certain amount of money, then you'll be in a movie and then you can choose your own ending. Or you could take on the role of the character of that movie. It's you, but you're in this avatar or whatnot. They have it where you can make the choices on your own. They have it where you're just in this avatar, and then everything they're doing is them doing it, but it's you inside of this avatar. So you're not controlling it. But it's like you, but all the lines in the movie, everything that's happening in the movie, you're feeling it. You're a part of it. So just imagine something crazy like you in Alien, the original Aliens movie. That would be crazy. That would be scary. I wouldn't want to be in that. Or The Walking Dead. Just imagine they made this environment, and they are doing it too with the whole Fortnite, the Halo thing. These what do you call them? Multiplayer. I forgot what they call them. RPGs. But there's something else they call them. I forgot what they call them. Where they got these digital worlds and people got these avatars, these characters and everything. It's gonna get deeper than that. It's gonna get deeper than that. So just imagine they have this The Walking Dead universe, where you can observe and you can go through and watch it and you're there, or you're running from zombies and everything. You can observe it. Not just observe, but you can be a part of it. Or you can create your own Walking Dead type of 4-dimensional, at the minimum, universe, world. And then you're interacting with these other characters in these different camps, like in The Walking Dead. And you got the main characters and stuff like that, and they're able to tie it in with the TV shows. Then they're able to take the TV show that they're doing. I think this is the last season or whatever, but if they want to, they'll pick it up. And then they will be able to connect them with other people that have their own little camps or whatnot. Sounds crazy, doesn't it? So, going back to those who can not only observe, but interact. There are certain individuals, and it's mostly the higher level, what we consider and say spiritual wickedness in high places. When they're going in there and they're changing the timeline by the choices that they're making, they're changing their timeline and everybody that's attached to them. This is where the Mandela effect comes in. I want to make sure I say it again. They're changing their timeline because they're dealing with some high-level power, high-level witchcraft. But they're not changing the overall timeline. Remember, you got life and death. They're not changing this necessarily. Now, inside of that timeline, they can change certain things. They're changing their timeline. But they're trying to avoid this right here, death. Now, it may seem like they change it. We see it in the Bible. We know they're trying to accomplish with DNA manipulation, these different things. But are they really changing the timeline? Are they really avoiding death ultimately? No. But they're prolonging it where it's like, okay, we're living forever because technically if you don't get sick, then you can technically live forever. So you could say, yeah, I never die. If you never technically die, then you never have to face the ultimate death. You see what I'm saying? So they're trying to alter different things to avoid facing the timeline. They're not trying to necessarily change it because they can't. They know they can't avoid death. But if you can bring on the technology about where you can in essence live forever, then technically you can avoid death. You can avoid judgment. So you would have changed the timeline. You see what I'm saying? So this is what they're trying to do. That's why Christ is going to come. Hey, no more, because he knows what they're doing. God said that nothing will stop them for what they have imagined to do. Because God knows what is in man and what man is capable of. Now what does man do? Man takes this power and turns it on God. So then the war ends up being worse than what it already is. And then what does man learn? Man doesn't learn anything. God can come in and say, wipe it all out. But then nobody learns nothing. One of the purposes of you being here is for you to learn these different things. So you can make better choices. But if you don't never see it and never know, then how are you going to make better choices? So God is allowing these different things to happen so people can see like, man, I don't want no part of this right here. This has gone too far. But because people have attaching themselves to people that can alter these timelines, then their timeline ends up being altered also, changed also. You see what I'm saying? So this is where the false prophets and false teachers come in at. The false prophets and the false teachers, they change people's timeline because these other people, you got the false prophets, false teachers, right? They teaching, right? They bringing the wisdom down. They got hires up that are giving the wisdom to them, and it trickles down. That's the way it goes, right? And then the people, they're like plants, and they soak and get up. So they grow and they grow and they grow and they grow. They're attached to these up here. So whatever happens to them ends up happening to them. Because they're all, these right here, they're attached to the timeline of these false prophets and false teachers. And so what do? The false teachers, that's not the real Jesus. This is the real Jesus over here. Yeah. This is the real Jesus. The Jesus they're talking about ain't the real Jesus. So they end up accepting the Antichrist as the Christ. That's a different timeline. And they end up saying that Christ is the Antichrist, a different timeline. But yet we're on that one big timeline. Because we're saying, no, who you say is Christ is the Antichrist. And our Christ is the real Christ. And they're saying, no, your Christ is the Antichrist and our Christ is the real Christ. So you got two timelines and everything colliding. Their timeline has changed because they have attached themselves to these high-level witches and warlocks who are going in and they're changing the timeline. They're not changing the timeline, but they're changing their timeline because they're ultimately trying to avoid death when they're not really avoiding death. And this is, again, where you get the whole Mandela effect and all these different things they come in at. Because when they say, oh, this changed, this didn't used to be this, now this is what it is. They're absolutely right. For them, it's changing, but not for us. Why? Because we are rooted and grounded in the foundation of Christ. So we have a clear mind. We know what's what. Then what do you always say? Oh, the Bible changed. It's always something dealing with attacking the Bible, huh? I wonder why. So then what ends up happening is the deeper they get into it, they end up creating, in essence, almost their own hell, their own labyrinth, their own maze in their own mind. They don't know how to escape. And they end up going crazy. Just like Gilgamesh pretty much did. Trying to accomplish and get immortality. When Noah, when he went and met Noah, he told him, "You're not going to get it. No, I'm not going to give you the secret." He didn't give it to him. Even when he told him to, he still didn't get it. So, yes, the timeline, yes and no, the timeline can be changed. Yes and no. And that, that's how. I want to make sure there's nothing I'm forgetting. I feel like there's something else I want to touch on the whole change the timeline. Yeah. So when this is happening, when they're changing their timeline, for those who can do it, they end up being given over to a strong delusion. Because what they perceive as reality isn't really reality. And what's reality to them is now not reality. It's fiction. So fiction becomes reality to them, and reality or nonfiction becomes fiction. They put good for evil, evil for good. So the very thing they think is going to give them life is going to lead them to death, to die in death, and to be resurrected in the second death. Instead of death leading to life. So I can go deeper with it, but I think this is a pretty, I ain't say good starting point, because I've been speaking about this stuff, but I think this is a good point, a good collection of knowledge to build on the previous stuff that we have been talking about. If you need to, you can go back and you can listen to it again, pause it, break it down. You can study it yourself. The Bible speaks about time travel all throughout it. But I have to be able to put it in a way where it's easily comprehensible. And I know I could have went deeper and explained some things better, but you got different education levels, people's education levels listening. And so I want to make sure that I address not only those who are what we consider babes, but also those who are eating steak, eating steak or whatnot. Steak is a little bit, tougher meat that's able to, digest these different things and be fed from it. So, but I think that's it. I want to go ahead and start on my other video if I'm gonna do it today. I may or may not. I get it out. But with that being said, God bless each and every one of you in Jesus Christ's name as always. Stay focused for Jesus, and as you know, the truth is not debated, it is declared.